All right, guys, so in this video, we're gonna give you your next 5 tips for relocating to Lake of the Ozarks. Last week, I gave you your first 5 tips. This week, I'm gonna give you 5 more. If you missed last week's video, just go back one video and watch the first 5 tips. Very simplistically, it's you gotta do your research. You gotta Google and watch YouTube videos and reach out and collect as much information as you possibly can. And when you're doing that, you gotta make sure you're choosing the right side of the lake. East side, west side, St. Louis, Kansas City side. Like, you gotta pick the right side of the lake. I promise you, you don't wanna make that mistake. The next component is obviously making a visit. Come down, drive around, let us show you around, spend time here, understand the lay of the land and how it works. That will make you more comfortable in the decision that you're about to make. And then understanding when you make that decision, you are gonna have an influx in tourism, right? Peak seasons, holiday weekends, wherever you are, you're going to feel that tourism traffic. Depending on where you are, you might feel it more than other places, but this is a summertime destination. So once you've done your research, you know which part of the lake you're gonna be on, you've made your visits, you've made your purchase, you will find a tourism influx during those peak seasons. And when you're doing all of that, you also gotta understand what the real estate market's like. Of course, that's what we wanna do to help you out along the way. So I wanna give you 5 more tips to think about before doing your relocation. The first of the 5 tips is gonna understand what the job opportunities are gonna be like and what the schools are gonna be like. So depending on who you are and why you're relocating, a lot of people are doing it from a retirement standpoint, so cool. Nothing I'm about to talk about matters to you. But if you are relocating and you need employment, or if you're relocating and you got kiddos in school, you're gonna look at basically 2 school districts for your children. The Camdenton School District and the Osage Beach School District. Both are K through 12. So back to like doing your research and finding the best property and understanding this area. If you like one of those school districts over the other, then of course you're gonna wanna try to be closer to that school district. They're both phenomenal schools. They both have pros and cons like every other school does. But that's definitely going to be on the east side of the lake, up and down Highway 54. You're gonna wanna make sure if you need a school district for your kiddos, those are the 2 that you're gonna wanna explore. When it comes to job opportunities, you'll have all of your kind of normal type jobs. A lot of people we talk to that are working and relocating have the ability to work remotely. So you already have a current job that you're at, it's in the tech industry, like whatever it is, you just have the ability to work from home and live anywhere. That's the most simplistic. Outside of that, you do have a healthcare system here, school systems here, county systems that you can get plugged into. There's a lot of like construction and labor and seasonal work too, right? So landscaping type stuff. There's a lot of seasonal things that you can do, and especially in the restaurant industry, right? There's a lot of folks that will work the restaurants kind of during the summertime months and then maybe do some type of construction or landscape type thing in the wintertime months. And so understanding that the job opportunities aren't as robust. If you're retired, then it doesn't really matter. And of course, if you already have a job that allows you to work remotely, then that's cool too. And then again, if you have kiddos that need to get into schools, or you're looking at school districts, the Camdenton School District or the Osage Beach School District are gonna be the 2 that you're gonna wanna check out. So a couple more tips to understand when you're down here and you're finding the right property and you're searching for it. We also wanna be very cautious on the cell phone coverage or the Wi-Fi coverage of that property. And you can easily fall in love with a home and the perfect home and the perfect cove, the perfect dock, and then you get to the home and you got no cell phone signal. You got 0 reception, 0 coverage. It happens all the time. It can be fixed, obviously, through Wi-Fi and calling through Wi-Fi, but it's something to navigate, especially if you step away from your property. If you go down to the dock or you're walking around maintaining your property, you might not have the best cell phone coverage once you step away from your Wi-Fi. That could somewhat be a challenge for some people that need to have access constantly, or you can't be disconnected from it. But your cell phone coverage is gonna be minimal all around the lake, depending on where you are. It's hilly and kind of mountainous and rugged and tall trees. That will bust up a cell phone signal easily. Most of these properties are tucked into somewhere, and so it makes it very challenging. When you're inside the home and you're connected to Wi-Fi and everything is fine, you're pretty much good to go. But with Wi-Fi coverage, you also want to make sure you do your research there. I think by now Starlink has figured out the satellite Wi-Fi, and I haven't experienced it. I don't have it. I've heard good things about Starlink. I've attempted to use some other satellite-based internet and it wasn't successful. And then eventually Como here at the lake is the best like high-speed internet, but Como is not everywhere. So that's gonna be the local cable internet high-speed stuff that directly plugs into your house, right? So there is a line that comes off the road and goes into your home, right? So that's what we have here, is a direct line, and it works perfectly fine. But Como isn't everywhere. So if that's what you're looking for and you find yourself in a cove or a perfect spot, but you realize Como doesn't service that area, they're still actively building out their service throughout the entire lake, but it might take a year or two or however many before they actually hit your street. So it's something to think about and to explore, right? So as you're doing your research and you're making your visit and we're showing you properties, when you're doing that, you're gonna wanna pull up your cell phone and go, okay, how's my signal? Okay, good, not good. And then, hey, by the way, what Wi-Fi company covers this area? Is Como here? If not, your best bet is probably to get Starlink. Now, obviously, because the cell phone signals are typically low, it's because of the terrain that we live in, right? So tip number 3 is understanding your environment and the terrain that we live in. It's very hilly and steepy, right? Again, this is a Ozark mountainous area that was flooded to create the Lake of the Ozarks. And so steep hills, right, which is gonna cause steep roads, curvy roads, all that kind of stuff. You are driving in the middle of nature all the time, right? So if you think about a mountain going down into the water and you're living a lakefront lifestyle, well, you gotta get out, right? So in order to get out of your property, you're probably gonna have a steep driveway. That's pretty normal, right? The flat lots and the flat driveways are the unicorns of the lake, right? We call those unicorns because they don't exist very much, and when they do, they go fast, right? They're very hot properties. The rest of us have some type of steep driveway. So you get yourself out, cool. But once you're on your road by your house, you still have to make your way out to the main roads. And to get out to the main roads, you are probably driving up steep hills, sometimes gravel, very curvy. You're driving around the mountains to get yourself on top to get out to the main roads. And even when you're on the main roads, none of them are straight, none of them are grid pattern. They're all steep and curvy, just not as big of steep, hills and curves. But you gotta have the perspective that if you're comfortable in that type of terrain, great. If you're not, that's where the trip to the lake comes into play. Like, make a visit, come down here, drive around out on the main roads, and then dump down into the lake and find your cove or go look at some homes, drive down a driveway. See what it feels like to come off the main road and drive down your driveway and try to pull into your garage. It'll pucker you up. It's a different feeling, right? So you gotta get used to that. You gotta get comfortable with that. In time becomes more comfortable. But if it's your first trip down here and you maybe have not expected that, I promise it'll be a little eye-opening once you get here. So we talked about jobs, we talked about schools, Wi-Fi and cell phone coverage, understanding the lay of the land with the steep hills, the curves. With all of that, tip number kind of 4 and 5, right? Number 1, you gotta try to embrace the lifestyle, and I think, again, kind of slow down. We talk to a lot of people that are, again, coming from big cities or suburban cities, and it's fast paced all the time, and down here, it's just not. You gotta slow down, you gotta take a break, you gotta relax. I think that's what the draw and the traction is, especially from a retirement standpoint. Cool. You're raising your family, you can bring your family down here and you can slow down and still live an effective lifestyle. You can still be proficient in your business. You can still be successful in your business. You can still accomplish the things that you want, but you are taking your family from a big city, urban, fast-paced feel, and you're choosing to bring them more into nature and outdoors and lake life, and with that comes a different pace. You gotta slow down, you gotta understand the pace of how you should be, but understand that that's the pace kind of around here. So businesses will close early. They won't open on Sundays because they got a place to be, right? They'll go to church, and they have a different perspective and a different sense of urgency that sometimes outsiders from big cities aren't used to. We want things now, and when we don't get it, we feel a certain way. So understand tip number 4 when you're down here that it is a different pace of life, and I encourage you to embrace that. So when you make a trip and a visit, yes, we want to get you out and about. We got to maximize as much time as we possibly can. But in that same breath, right, understand when you move here permanently, it is going to have a different pace. You have to kind of slow that piece down a little bit. Understand that there is a difference between here and again, some of those big cities that we might be living in. So the last tip after all of this is just really understanding your budget, understanding what you're getting into. You've done all your research, you've made your trips, you know what side of the lake's on, you got the Wi-Fi, cell phone, job, school, all that kind of stuff, and understanding your budget and what you can get with inside your budget, we think is very, very important. A lot of people are looking for lakefront homes. Great. You want a lakefront home, bedrooms and bathrooms and garages and all the amenities. You got to understand what that budget looks like here at Lake of the Ozarks. But with that, we also maybe want to poke on second tier or third tiers. We just did a video on lakefront versus off lake. There are options that are second or third tier that give you lake views, that give you lake access, but maybe not lakefront prices, okay? And then obviously you got a lot of off-lake options as well too. So understanding your budget, understanding your why for coming down here. And some are coming down, they're dead set, lakefront, totally cool. Love it, get it. That's why I'm here, that's why I have it. But as I've spent more time here, I understand that there is a different pace or a different desire for maybe a second tier or even an off-lake property. So understanding your budget and then understanding what you can get for your budget, you might just want to peek at a second, third, or something else. It's just to explore. That's where we would come into play. So when you're Googling, when you're watching YouTube, when you're researching everything, you're picking your side, you're weighing your pros and cons, you have a whole bunch of information down. Myself and my team are here to help. So don't hesitate. Call me, text me, email me. Let me know what questions you have. Let me know if you need links to something. Doesn't matter the question, right? It's that saying, no question's a dumb question. Like, just ask whatever it is you need. Gathering of information to make the best educated decision is probably the most important tip out of all of this. We would love to help you do that. So call me, text me, email me. I love doing Zoom calls with you. Whatever I can do to help you out, let me know. And until then, we'll see you on the next video.